means that we're going to be working together. It's not a lecture where I'm going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Is it okay? Right, so far I've talked a little bit already. Is everyone okay with the pace? Am I speaking too fast? No? At the end of the program. Don't worry too much about it. If you follow through everything that we do during these 2.5 days, you'll be fine. It's not writing essay, it's all MCQ, true or false. So it's very easy. Okay? And it's open book. Alright? I promise you. Just have to pay attention only and ask if you are not sure. Okay? Right. So, before we begin, it's always important to get to know each other. So, you know my name? So my name is Michelle. Right, typically Michelle, I see your name there. Is it pronounced by my first name? The reason being is because I'm a Chinese by origin. So Chinese name just like Vietnamese name as well. You have the 3 character or sometimes 4 character, right? Starting with the surname. So that Michelle is supposed to be a Chinese name, which means actually I do have all these details here. Okay? Once you've done that, I want you to post onto this link here. The one with you is this platform called Edmodo, which I will be putting all the notes and whatever activities, templates and handouts that I will be giving you. I do not have any printed out materials. Everything is all there. So do you use Edmodo? A little bit. Okay, great. So you more or less know what is Edmodo. Okay. So those who are new to it, so what you need to do is to go to Google, type Edmodo, and then you click on the first one, the first link, and then join the class. You'll be asked for the class code, which is here, B36NXQ. Can you do that now? Okay. You can. What are the 4 stages in OBE? Yeah. And then we will go for our lunch break at 12. We'll meet back here. Oh, sorry, I forgot to amend this one. We'll meet back here at 1 o'clock amongst the PLO, DLO, and LLO. Is that okay? Yeah? So 3 outcomes to achieve before our lunch break today. Right, let's start with this. What are the learning domains? Simple question, yeah? Go to this link here. Go to this link here. The words are much bigger than the other words there. The reason being, more people submit the same answer. If there are more people submitting the same answer, the word gets bigger. Okay, so if you see like words like applying is very small, means that probably just 1 person submitting the answer, so it will be smaller. Okay. Any more answers? Do after their report. Why is it important to do that? Why is it important to focus on what students can do after they've graduated or after they've completed the course? Why? Yeah, so that they can meet the demands of what the work requires them, which is something that they need to do. Okay, so that's why we are supposed to focus on the outcome. It's actually on the learning outcomes and not on the topics of what we want to teach, which is typically what teachers like to do, especially when there is a textbook that will just teach by topics in the textbook. True? That's the easiest, right? But that's not the most effective method. Okay? So today here we're going to talk about outcome-based education, and you will be in teaching. First stage in teaching. Huh? Planning. Okay, then after that? Designing, and then? Delivering, and then? Assessment. Assess who? students' performance. Finish. And evaluation, CQI, right. But then become 5 already, right? Okay, something wrong somewhere there. Okay, so what are the 4 stages of teaching? Planning. After planning will be the delivering. Okay? And after delivering, right. Now, in OBE, our focus is, first one in planning is, what are the intended learning outcomes? Okay? And in the delivery stage is focusing on how best to help students achieve the outcomes. What are we doing in our classroom to help them to achieve the outcomes? The third one is assessment. How do we know outcomes are achieved? And finally, how do we close the loop? How are we going to improve for our next semester? Or if students are not achieving your learning outcome, something is wrong somewhere. What are we going to do? Okay? Alright? So the focus in OBE is all these issues here. So I've summarized here in this table. You have planning, delivery, assessment, and CQI. And throughout this 2.5 days that we have here, we're going to look at all these stages in detail. This morning, I'm just going to run through the stages with you. Right? So, therefore, in OBE, learning outcome is key. You need to know your learning outcome before anything begins. If your learning outcome is not correctly written, everything falls apart. To begin, your learning outcome must be very clear. But where does this learning outcome come from? Where does it come from?
Industry.
Huh?
Industry.
Well done. Industry. So how to get industry? How to get to them? Yes, okay, yeah, designing it with them. So how do you do it here? In FPT, what do you do? Huh? On the job training. Or you mean you go to the industry?
Students go.
Students go to the industry, okay. But how do you get what the industry wants? So they go for the internship, right? And then after that they come back and they tell you, no. Okay, so you have meetings with them and dialogues and all. Okay, great. Okay, good. Okay, so it's all about what students are able to do, okay? And the question is, how do you wish to transform the students? That is our role. How are we going to transform the students in order to meet what the industry wants them to be, right? And at the end of the period of learning, we want our students to do what? Not only what, but at what kind of level of knowledge? Are we training students to be technician? Yeah, the learning outcome. But where does the learning outcome come from? From the industrial, yes. And then after that? No doubt, the information and all comes from the industry. Just like that. It has to go through that program. What are you doing? Like I said just now. There is program for technicians, there is program for engineers, there is a program for managers. Okay, so which one are you targeting? We will be looking at the domains afterwards. Lifelong learning is actually very important for every one of us. Yeah, that's actually a very critical thing to teach. Okay, so before we move on to that part of the additional ones, yeah, let's look at this video here. Now, as you watch the video, I'd like you to describe 2 types of learner that you see in the video. And then explain the 3 levels of thinking about teaching. Ready? Okay, 2 things that you need to do.
It really goes into exploring and basically can almost teach themselves if they have the curriculum. And the shallow learner or the surface learner, it's more, they'll cut corners, just whatever it is to complete what they have to do, they're more the end goal. They just want to get through uni as fast as possible and just get out there.
Who do we have more in our classrooms? You agree? Do you all agree?
Yes.
Good answer? Great. Hey, does she deserve a reward? Yes. Let's see what I have.
And he can get after answering the question. Okay, I would like to focus on what learners, who learners are. Yeah, is that right? Is a kind of teachers who classify what kind of student in the class, and bad student and good students. And the second one is the teachers always focus on their lecturers. They don't care anything. They don't care any other students. They focus on what they are saying. They don't care about the attitudes and inspirations of the student as well. And the last one is how students react. Yeah, the teachers focus on the attitudes, on the way students participate in the class and how they contribute to the lecturers. And they can
The method is where when we plan a program, the faculty, which is like you all here, will discuss what courses or subjects to include in the program. Is that correct? Yeah? That's what you do, right? When you when you want to start a new program, Bachelor of Arts in what? In political science, for example. Okay? So that's what you do. Think about what subjects you want to offer to be included in the program. And then for each course, each subject, do you use course or subject here? Which term do you use? Course, okay. Course, okay. For each course, what topics you want to include? Yes? Okay. Problem is, remember we said OBE focuses on the learning outcomes, not on the topics. So what is OBE then? OBE, the first thing is to think about what learning outcomes you want the students to achieve upon graduation. They study a degree after 3 or 4 years depending on your field. What must they achieve at the end of it? Okay? So the outcome. Then only you think about what courses you need to put into your program in order to achieve the outcomes. And therefore, your focus will maintain on the learning outcomes. So which one are you using? Traditional or OBE? OBE. Great. Okay, I hope everybody is focusing on OBE here, because I see their OBE, but then the rest of it here is like not very sure. Huh? What?
No, I'm joking about it. What is the sign of OBE? It's not on my right side.
Oh, because you're okay. Possibly. Alright. So you see that in OBE, the focus is always on the learning outcome first, then only the subjects, the courses, and then only your topics and whatever that comes in after that. Now, the different domains of learning, just now we talked about domains of learning, and I asked you what are the 3 main domains, yeah? These are the 3 main domains which you have answered well just now. So which is on your cognitive, which is the knowledge level. Then you have your psychomotor, which is on the skills. And then the affective, which is the feelings. So each domain here, usually we will be based on these taxonomies. Generally, which one are we focusing on most of the time? Which one do we focus on most of the time? Cognitive and skill, psychomotor, right? Yeah. What do you think about this one? What do you think of it? Is it easy? It's one of the most difficult ones to actually teach and also to measure, because it takes a very long time to develop. Okay, so even back in my country, we have in high school we have subjects like moral education. You're given a grade. I always wonder, even last time, long time ago, I did badly, by the way. I just passed in my high school level. Because I find that it's just so ridiculous. How do you measure somebody's moral based on just one paper, exam paper? It's just so ridiculous. Right? Yeah? So that is something that must change. How do we measure this kind of skills or attitude? Right? Okay? So, let's look at the different learning outcomes. And we talk about learning outcomes just now. But there are actually many different types of learning outcomes. So the first one is what we call PLO, which is the program learning outcome. Do you know your program learning outcome? Are you familiar with it? Yes, very good. And then we have the, okay, right? So, 3 different learning outcomes. What is program learning outcome? What is program learning outcome? Yeah, what can you do after the program? It means upon graduation, finishing 3 years or 4 years, what can the students do? Okay, then the course learning outcomes after the course, at the end of the semester, yes, and then the lesson learning outcome at the end of the day, at the end of the lesson. Okay, so these 3 learning outcomes, 3 types of learning outcomes. Clear? Okay. Now there is also another one called program educational objectives, which I have not listed it here. Are you familiar with that? Program educational objective. What is that? When? Do you use this term in FPT? Program educational objectives? No. Okay. Program educational objectives refers to the same thing, is still the outcomes, but is after 5 years upon graduation. So program learning outcomes is upon graduation, they can do what? But after 5 years, what they can do, that will be program educational objective. That is a very far-sighted thing. Okay, alright? So, now, in Malaysia, for KDU Penang, we are using these 8 domains of learning outcome. This is actually, this particular framework is given by, I wrote it here, MQA, means Malaysian Qualifications Agency. All the higher institutions in Malaysia, all programs are based on this domain here. So just now, Michelle, you were saying about lifelong learning. So it is in one of our domains. So what is your domain? What do you use as your domain? What do you use as your domain? Buying some of it. Some will have more because there's split up into different and more domains. So it depends. So you have to decide on your domain first, and then from the domains you will write your program learning outcome. 5? You have 5 domains, okay. So what are the domains? Knowledge, social science, okay. Foreign languages, okay. Industry driven, okay. Personal development. Foreign languages, interesting. How does that? You mean to say for every program, they must learn a foreign language?
Must only one language, English, and have to learn another second language, that is called Chinese.
So everybody, is that only for FPT or for every institution? Only for FPT, okay. So all students will know more than one language when they graduate. That's great, good. Okay, right. So from there, you write your program learning outcome, correct? Yes. So, do you know your program learning outcome? Do you have? Do you have it with you?
Actually, we device audit doc. Actually, we're at this moment.
Oh, okay. So you're now in the midst of the latest trends, techniques through the research and projects, and so on. Okay, right? This is just an example for you to use. So, who determines the learning outcomes? Just now you said industry. Who else?
Well, we teach a program that comes from British, so it's a British kind of...
Are you from Greenwich?
Yes, yeah. So all of our learning outcomes are from there. So, there's times when, sometimes it needs adjustment to be delivered here.
So you have no say in it.
Not in the learning outcomes, no, but then we modify maybe the
Can
and
you
the assessment brief we can modify.
can you feedback
Yeah. Yes.
flexibility that you can actually practice? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. So let's do one simple exercise here. I want you to be in your groups. Hopefully you are comfortable with your groups already. But some groups are like very big. Some groups are very small. So ideally there should be 6, is it? Okay. You can join here.
Excuse me, can I have questions? Can I come back to the previous slide? Because I really confused. We have some domains of learning outcomes. And for example, in my understanding, in FET University, we have 8 main domains. Is that right? Answer. 5. What are the national requirement corporate demands? And also we define our 8 domains of learning outcomes. And we need to create programs learning outcomes. Up to now, there are many levels of education in FET. Level of education of FET.
Outcomes. Bachelor of Arts in Teaching English as a Second Language is another set of program learning outcomes. But the domains are the same.
Level of education. Even though they are in the same level of education. But we
Yes.
have the different demands. So we need to create
Different, yeah, because for example, you have like Bachelor of Arts in Computer Studies. Sorry, Bachelor of Science in Computer Studies, okay? That will be one set of program learning outcomes. Then you have Bachelor of Arts in Teaching English as a Second Language. It's another separate, what you call program learning outcomes. Because, for example, you see knowledge, the knowledge that students need to acquire from computer studies will definitely be different for students who are going to be teachers of English. So it will be different. The domains remain the same, but the learning outcomes are not the same. Okay? Right. Issue or an organization that they would like to help. And then they organize an event and reach out to that particular group who needs help. And so after that, they have to write reflective reports and also required to do presentation and share video. Yeah, you can combine it if you want, but it will be easier if you don't combine it. Later on, you will see the reason why. Okay, right? Okay, so let's look at this. In your groups, very quickly, just 2 minutes, I'd like you to discuss. You said just now, where do you get information on how and what to create for your program, right? You said that you get it from the industry. But what else or who else? Very quickly, 2 minutes, just brainstorm among yourself and then think of who are the other people or what are sources of information that you gather in order for you to start designing a program. Okay? Right? 2 minutes. So PAOs are already fixed. You know what you want as your program learning outcomes. We will then move on to creating the curriculum, or rather the courses in your program. Okay, so now what courses you should have, what learning outcomes for each one of it. Okay, right. When you write your course learning outcomes, how many should you have? Course learning outcomes for each course. How many course learning outcomes? Yeah, I saw some of these samples that was sent to me. Rather long, I would say. I see like 15 or 18, like, wow, that is very ambitious. But I did notice that actually, I think a lot of the course outcomes that there were like in that 15 or 18, there are more to course learning outcomes. But under the course learning outcome, you can have many lesson learning outcomes, which are the very, very small ones. I will share with you afterward an example of what I can show you what I mean by course learning outcomes. Okay, right? Okay, relevant to your subject or relevant to your program learning outcome, what you want it to be. One course, not necessarily ask me about social skills and all. We have one course that fulfills that program learning outcome. But that course maybe have got some communication skills that is involved. That will be another learning outcome. But it cannot fulfill much on the knowledge outcome. Okay? Alright? So it doesn't matter if you have one course that cannot fulfill everything. It's normal. Yeah? And when you write your course, you have your student here. That's the person you're trying to reach out to. And you have your program outcomes, which you want the students to attain at the end of their program. What are these? You have that on your paper? Check. Look at your answers now and check. You have that on your paper? Some. Okay. Qualification framework. So you should have your domain, which is the 5 domains. Then you have your external stakeholders needs. Who are these external stakeholders? Yes, employer is one. Industry, yes. Come on. Professional body, ACCA. That is the professional body. Okay, right? So you need to also consult all these professional bodies. For example, in Malaysia, for diploma in nursing, there is also the professional body. If not, your students graduate and they cannot work because they have to be registered with the professional body before they can start practicing. Okay, right? And of course, you have your faculty expertise. I see that in many of your papers there that you have written. And what is this? Vision and missions of Institute of Higher Learning. What is the vision and mission of your education group? What is it? So long. Mega University. Because if not, your program cannot work. Because it's not linked to what your organization is doing. Okay? Right? So with all this information, that's how you design your program outcomes. Right? Then, after that, you have your course outcomes, which actually then align to your program outcomes. And as a teacher, you will have your lesson outcomes, which then contributes to each of the course outcomes. So you will have like plenty of it here. And this will then be learned by your student or achieved by your student. Now, what is the most important thing about CLO? We must know the CLO for the course before we even start. In our planning stage, we need to be very clear. What is it? Okay? Right? And after all, these outcomes are the things that the students want to achieve at the end of it. Okay? So you go to class, because I had this lecturer the other day who came to my office telling me, because I was sharing with him about, what do you call that? Student-centered learning activities. And he started telling me, you know, if you start doing all these things, right, you can never finish the syllabus. Then I said to him, why do you want to finish the syllabus? Because that's what the students must learn. So you think that if you finish the syllabus, your students have learned? Then he looked at me. So a lot of times we just think that this is what the students need to know, need to learn. But are they really learning or not? So you focus on outcome, what they can do, not just about this is the amount of information that they must get into their head. Okay? So therefore, you need to teach according to your CLO, according to what objectives of the course. Apart from your learning outcome, there is also the course objectives. Usually, after writing your course objectives, you can say writing your course objective, you will turn the course objectives into your course learning outcome. Do you have a set of the words that you should use when writing your course learning outcomes? Yes, and what is that? Yeah, whether the 8 domains, which CLO that you're covering. You can have many, but you have to be very specific about which one that you're covering, right? And this is the important thing. Your CLO should be able to address what's usable and useful activities your students should be able to perform. What particular topic is important and at which level is it that you are teaching your course? And also, how you're going to teach and what activities that you're going to use and how you're going to assess, how you're going to test whether your students achieve them or not. Okay, right? I'm not sure whether is that the term that you use. It could be course syllabus that you call it here. Yeah. Okay, we usually call it as an MQA document. The course document is an important document that contains all of these things here. Your course learning outcomes are also written there, right? So I'm going to show you examples of what we use. Just recently, we changed the format of our course document. So I'm going to show you the latest format. The course code, a synopsis of what this course is about. This is actually Academic English 1. The staff or the lecturer who is teaching it and when is it offered. The credit value, which is so important for graduation, is also written there. Prerequisite if you have, like for example in Academic English 2, there will be the prerequisite written Academic English 1, which they must take before they can take Academic English 2. Now this is the course learning outcome. There are 4 here. Okay, and as you can see as we go down, each of these course learning outcome is then mapped to the program learning outcome. For this one, is actually for diploma in multimedia design. You see the code down here. So you see this is for diploma in multimedia design. If you look at diploma in, this is interior design, they will have different mapping. You see here is mapped to PLO 5 and 6. This one is mapped to PLO 5. The course learning outcome is the same. Okay? But the program learning outcome, this one is for diploma in interior design. The program learning outcome, if you go to like other courses, is also different. 5 and 6. Diploma in Business. Come 4 and 6. Okay? Alright, so that's what I mean by one program, one set of learning outcomes. Then you have your course, but your course maps to the program. And each program is different. This particular course is taken by the design students, by the put there SLT. SLT is student learning time, which is here, this one. So for each week here, we have this topic, and each topic is mapped to the CLO. So for this first topic, is mapped to the first CLO. Second topic, mapped to the second one. Third topic, mapped to the second one as well. Fourth topic, matched to the fourth one. And for each one here, we have divided it into lecture, how many hours, L for lecture, T for tutorial, P for practical, O for others. So here for this particular course is only lecture and tutorial, which is like 2 hours lecture and 1 hour tutorial. And this here is independent learning time, which is what they are supposed to do on their own. What we think students should spend on, how many hours they should spend on for this particular topic. So for this one, 2 hours lecture, 1 hour tutorial, we think that the students must self-study for 4 hours. And this total into student learning time in class and also self-study 7. So all this will be total up. Okay. And then they have the grand total SLT, which then give the credit. 120 divided by 40, that's the formula we use to get 3 credits. Remember just now I showed you assessment. You see here now there is continuous assessment and there is also the final assessment. In our previous course document, we never had it separated like that. But now we make it clearer for us and also for the students to know that these are the requirements for the course. There is the midterm exam, there is the quiz, and the totals up to 100 marks. And we also recommend here independent student learning time. That means there's self-0. F to F means face-to-face. Face-to-face means the student must come here. I must see the student. So for this assignment, it's probably a written report. So there is no face-to-face at all. But students are expected to work on it for 2 hours. Okay, so that's how it's read now. So by using this, it is clearer now that all this totals up to 120 that will contribute to the credit value. That is 3. Previously, it is not separated in terms of the assessment section. So we had issues like students spending. So this will be your weekly lessons. What are you going to achieve in the weekly lessons? Now, just now the document that I showed you just now, you don't see any lesson learning outcome there. I will show you another one afterwards. Specified in the teaching plan, or you call it lesson plan here? What do you call it? You call it lesson plan here. Okay, we call it teaching plan. Last time we used to call it scheme of work.
Yeah, we still do that.
Scheme of work. Yeah, I find it so, wow,
Yeah.
sophisticated. It's more educational, right? Okay, so how does your lesson plan here map? How does your lesson plan here map to your course learning outcomes? Okay, so just like your PLO just now, which matches to your CLO, so here is how it matches. Again, your lesson learning outcomes must be aimed back to your course learning outcomes. That means it is out. Okay, right. Now when you are designing your learning outcomes, remember we have your program learning outcomes first, then your course learning outcomes, and then you go down to your lesson outcomes. So remember, these are the people or the sources of information that you need in order to do that. Now when we talk about attaining learning outcomes, it comes from student's perspective, yeah, now, student's perspective, okay? So you have, student will know your lesson outcome. Of course, you tell them the course learning outcome at the beginning, but I tell you 99% of them here in, they out. They don't know what rubbish you are talking most of the time, okay? So lesson learning outcome still, I think, easier for them to digest, yeah? So you have your lesson learning outcome, and from there, you have your course learning outcome. When they achieve the learning outcome accumulated over the semester, they achieve the course learning outcome. When they achieve a few courses at the end of the semester, that's when they slowly achieve their program outcomes. When they complete all the courses in the program, and that's how they can graduate. Okay? Right. So now, your student is here, and your program outcomes here. So we had this already, just now. You have your lesson outcomes. So what is this here? It's your outcome-based assessments. How do we know whether your student achieved these course outcomes? It's by doing your assessments. Okay? Right, before we move on, let's recap. You remember this thing? Yes? Okay. Can you just flip your paper over just now? You have one paper. Can you just flip it over and then draw this and then fill in the blanks here? Okay? Fill in the blanks. You check your own work and see whether it's accurate. Right? So the 4 stages, remember, planning, delivery, assessment, evaluation, and CQI. And the outside boxes here are what are the key issues in OBE for each of the stage. Okay. Right. So we have completed planning just now. Now we're going to move on to delivery. So this is the stage where we talk about how best to help the students to achieve the learning outcomes. Delivery is actually very important, right? How are we going to deliver our lessons? We have planned already. Okay, we know, okay, for this CLO, this is the LLO, and then these are the activities. Now we're going to do it in class. Now, think about when we do is, a lot of times it didn't quite work is because, remember the 3 levels of teaching? Yes. Yeah. I think it's really normal for real content-based lessons where it's a lot of theory. Lectures tend to be very long lectures. How long is your lecture? Lecture as in like talk. How long is it? 90 minutes. Talk non-stop. A lot of activities. Okay. What subject are you teaching? Graphic design. Okay. What about the rest of you?